Hi, I'm doing a very quick video on this interesting graph that showed up on Good Morning America. Today's October 11th, I think, 2020. So here's the deaths from COVID-19. This is a chart month by month, March, April, May, June, July. Well, that's interesting. The protests, and I'm not saying I'm for or against the protests, just pointing out, protests started right around here, right at the low point of deaths from coronavirus. Protests were at their most intense through June and July. I think we'll all agree on that, right? I mean, that's not really an arguable point. Well, so from the low point in June, this is June, to July, look where the spike is. See, this was not, you could not reveal this back in June because now we're in September, October. But now that we have a chance to study it, clearly June and July saw a huge spike. Trump got blamed for this. Do you see the irony here? There are protests in the street that turned into looting and rioting, and they weren't peaceful, and there never were really clear definition. In other words, the idea was to mobilize and create more and more people to hate things, not to resolve things. And while that was going on, while that hate was going on, coronavirus cases spiked. So did deaths, all through the June and July marches. And Trump got blamed for that. Trump got blamed for trying to stop them. Do you see this hostility and negativity that's going on? The Democrats want to win the election by getting everybody angry at Trump, making Trump be the bad guy. He's not the bad guy. From the very beginning, for COVID-19, all Trump has wanted was for the medical industry and big pharma to not only try their vaccines and new drugs, but to come up with some kind of treatment protocol for anyone who had to go into quarantine. And the medical industry and big pharma never came up with one. So because they never came up with one, they simply said, all of you, you have to wear masks, you have to stay home, and you have to do what we tell you, and that's it. There was no other side. And Trump didn't agree with that. Trump was like, look, come up with something so people have a better chance to fight off coronavirus when they first get it. And nobody came up with anything. So, again, going back to this chart, remember what the media was saying. Oh, those protests weren't changing the results at all. But then when they spiked, Trump got blamed. This is insanity. This is absolute insanity to blame the president for the spike in cases and deaths for coronavirus when it clearly shows a line that totally relates to all the protests and all the marches. Why do you get to have it both ways? If you're going to protest and march, accept responsibility. See, this is the thing. Everyone wants Trump to take responsibility for their own actions. It's like, let's all blame Trump. Let's blame Mikey. Let's blame Trump. We won't take responsibility. Instead of just saying we're going to protest even though more people will die, we think it's worth it. No. They protested and then blamed Trump when, again, this is literally the beginning of June. This is literally the low point of coronavirus and deaths. Right there, June 1st. The marches started at the very end of April, very end of May. The very end of May is when all the protests started, all right? You just can't get a bigger correlation than what you have. June and July, the biggest spikes, the 2 months when all the protests were going on. Wow. Just, if you've already made up your mind, you're being duped. Trust me. This is proof that the media refuses to blame anybody on the progressive side for anything. All they're doing is blaming Trump for everything. Don't fall for it. I'm begging you.